With turkey season opening this Saturday here in Montana, it's time to talk about turkeys. Every spring, millions of hunters in the U.S. take to the woods to hunt turkeys. In fact, it's the second most popular form of hunting across the country. In the 1800s, wild turkeys were hunted nearly to extinction in most of their native ranges. With the help of state and federal wildlife agencies, the species began to recover in the early to mid-1900s. Today, the wild turkey can be found in 49 of the 50 states. But did you know that here in Montana, wild turkeys aren't actually native to the state? The closest place with native birds is southern Colorado. It wasn't until 1954 when Montana's Department of Fish and Game, now Fish, Wildlife and Parks, made their first introduction of the Merriam's wild turkey. After being encouraged by the success that Wyoming and South Dakota had with transplanting from other states, department biologists introduced 13 birds from Colorado here in the southern part of the Judith Mountains. A second release in 1955 brought 18 turkeys from Wyoming to the southern part of Montana here in the Long Pine Hill area, only 30 miles from Ekalaka. Over the next 2 years, 26 more birds were brought in from Wyoming around the Ashland area. This was subsequently the last time that turkeys from outside the state were brought in to be transplanted. These birds fared exceptionally well in their new homes, and in the Long Pines area especially, where the initial 18 birds were transplanted, just 3 short years later, the population had boomed to over 1,000. Inspired by the department's early success, state biologists began trapping birds from the initial introduction sites and transplanting them to new areas. In 1958, Montana held its first turkey hunt, harvesting nearly 100 birds that season. Around that same time in the late 1950s, a group of private individuals brought in a flock of pin-raised birds of the eastern subspecies and released them up in the Flathead Valley. The easterns released in that region have continued to grow in numbers and now occupy most of the northwest corner of the state. Over the next 30 years, the Fish and Game Department moved more than 1,500 birds to sites across Montana. They were supplementing existing flocks, but more often putting them into new habitats. With the populations naturally growing and spreading throughout the entire state, from 1990 to 2003, fewer than 300 birds were moved into new sites. Currently, wild turkeys live in almost every county across Montana, with recent estimations of the population around 120,000 birds. Like other wildlife species, the introduction of the wild turkeys into Montana is considered to be one of the state's wildlife management success stories. Turkeys are very adaptable birds. They survive in a range of habitats and conditions while filling a niche that is largely void by other native species. With the basic requirements like mature trees for roosting, grassy cover for nesting, and accessible food and water, turkeys can generally make it through even the toughest of Montana winters. I talked with Jason Tarwater from the National Wild Turkey Federation to find out more about their role and what projects they're currently working on here in Montana to ensure the future success of wild turkeys.
National Wild Turkey Federation was founded back in 1973, similar to a lot of organizations, conservation groups. It was at a time when wild turkey numbers were very low and on the decline very fast. So for the first 40 plus years of the organization's existence, we've been very actively involved in trapping and transplanting wild turkeys to suitable habitats and helping state agencies boost the populations to provide hunting opportunity. All across the state, we've got some great projects that we help state and federal agencies with, either through funding or through manual labor. For instance, we've got projects down in the Ekalaka Hills in southeast Montana. Annually, we give funding for a very large BLM prescribed burning project up in the Missouri River Breaks and clear over in the western side of the state around that Frenchtown area. We actually have projects that are on bighorn sheep winter range. So by focusing on the wild turkey, we're helping all the species from riparian areas, deer and pheasants and wild turkeys all the way up to mule deer, grouse, and even bighorn sheep. All of our states have specific goals just for that state. For instance, here in Montana, we have a goal of opening up 20,000 acres of public access. for hunting, for fishing, for recreating. We have a goal of creating 500 new hunters, and that is through our volunteers doing mentored hunts, getting involved in mentored hunting programs. And then we also have a goal of enhancing 30,000 acres of forested habitat. So if you want to get involved, there's several ways that you can find us, but the easiest is just go to our website, NWTF.org. Right there you can find all of our projects that we've been helping out with, local banquets and events, and get a hold of the staff members that are in your area.
As I stated earlier, turkey hunting is the second most popular type of hunting here in the US. Though, in a lot of Western states, it seems to be more of just an afterthought. This got me thinking a lot. If we didn't have such a wide array of hunting opportunities for other species here in Montana, would we have diehard turkey hunters like you find down in the South or maybe in the Midwest? For me personally, before I had an opportunity to come out west and experience bugling elk, there were always gobbling turkeys. Growing up in Florida, it was always my favorite season to look forward to. The way I see it, spring turkey hunting is the closest thing to elk hunting in September as you can get. With the vocalizations, talking back and forth with the bird, and pulling them into shotgun range, it'll get your heart beating out of your chest. So this spring, get out and go chase some turkeys. I bet you won't regret it. Thanks for watching.